help me out with these unwritten rules here. Is baseball going to get past this, or attempting to just say, okay, you hit a home run, it doesn't matter how long you stare, or that let's not throw at people anymore? It's the 21st century. We know that there's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of careers on the line. That let's figure out a different way to hash this stuff out. John, is that an archaic way, or just no way we're going to be getting past this?
Well, in theory, it makes a lot of sense and should have. I would say let's just say the way it is, it should be better executed. And this has been a problem for a little while when you think about the youth that's being kind of injected into our game. This is going to sound like I'm an old player and a curmudgeon, but I'm not. It's just guys aren't ready to do the simple things and the things that we were all taught to do that did never escalate into some of these scenarios. Now, there were a lot of brawls back in the day, and there were a lot of guys that were thrown at. But the American League, for me, look, when pitchers don't have to bat, it's a whole different story. I don't know what the numbers and stats look like as far as which league throws at more guys. But when you're talking about this subject, and you're not talking about a ball getting away, you're talking about intent. Much to what you just said, Napoli said, has always been the line of thinking, and guys understand the game, at least the guys that have played it for a while. I have my button when he gets pushed is when a pitcher throws behind or near a head. I just can't tolerate it. I don't think there's a place for it, and that's the part that gets people kind of fired up, is when you see a ball whiz by a guy's head or thrown behind him. There's just not. It's not an executed part that's that hard. It's I guess on an individual basis, an inexperience, and I think we're seeing of late some of that happening, and guys just didn't do it right. Well,
I mean, Barnes threw at Machado at his head last week and only got 6 games. So what gives? When does baseball want to give 20 games to these guys and can't because of a collective bargaining situation? Would the Players Association block that or be involved, want to do something like that? What can you tell me about the actual nuts and bolts of this?
I think what happens in this game, right, wrong, or indifferent, it's an overreactive scenario. I mean, when Buster Posey gets crushed at home plate, whether his technique was right or not, you end up having a new rule. When something happens at second base, you end up having a new rule. I think if something happens, unfortunately, in an adverse way at home plate to a hitter, you might have a new rule. I don't think, we've seen guys get hit in the head on accident, which again, thankfully, nobody of recent, you never want to say concussions aren't a bad thing. I'm talking about life-altering, and thankfully those are really low percentage. But I think if this were to happen, let's say in the intent, it's hard to improve intent, but it looks like you were trying to do something to a hitter, I think that's when you're going to see it change. I was the byproduct of the longest suspension ever given at the time because it was just the right time at the wrong time at the right place. There was a slew of, it seemed like, brawls back in the early 2000s, and we got in one, and that became the new, I guess, suspension. I got 8 games, and I've hit less people in the history of the game per inning than I think anybody. But I think the game, and when you have the umpires getting involved too early, it's amazing what you can see. 2 different sides, 8 different people can see the same thing and come to different conclusions. And when emotion and heated scenarios get in place, when you so-called cross the line, that's when the game can get a little ugly. Veteran players or players that do it right, you never see a situation get ugly. Now, whether that's a place for the game or not, hockey has fighting and somewhat encouraged, I guess. Baseball has always had some of their uglier brawls that we keep showing and kind of not glorifying, but keep showing. And I think again, neither of these instances, I think, guys have gotten hit. It's just been thrown behind. I think that's why their suspensions are what they are.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.